Part 20. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 192. Change the ancient treasure in 1991. Hee, I just got the demon tree material from Huaikui, and then I made some objects on the dragon and sent it out. These are all treasures. But Xiao shook her head and said, the girl dragon is not dead yet, it is impossible to give you those. She thought about it again, or else I will give you 2 shirts that the girl dragon will prepare to wear in the future. Xiao lowered her voice. Xiao Chan said, it's all inner clothes, my mother said, male dragons like these the most. After Xiao said, he also blinked the big longan. Yekong almost hit his head on the ground and smiled bitterly, please, there is a man underneath, not a male dragon, and he is not interested in your clothes. Or. Xiao thought again and said, take the water and fire gourd for you. Although this thing is an ancient treasure, it's boring. Take this. Yekong heard the overjoyed, changed the magic weapon to Gubeo, did not change, silly. Change, don't regret it. Yekong took the water and fire gourd, dropped the bronze mirror, and ran away. As soon as Yekong left, Yuning couldn't help but blame, Xiao, how can you give him water and fire gourd? You exchange Gubao for this bronze mirror, are you stupid? Xiao laughed, mother, I'm not stupid. Do you think this boy can pass all the tests? When he dies, the water fire gourd will return to Huaikui and wait for the next passer. To be honest, I really is missing a mirror. Yuning was right after thinking about it, so he didn't say more, but turned and entered Dongfu. But when she returned to Dongfu, she found something wrong. She looked around and asked, where is Deu? Xiao laughed, oh, she's a good person all day long. I'm very wrong, so I put her in a fire gourd. Ah! Nonsense, although Yuning is more fond of her younger daughter, Deu is also her daughter. Now that the oldest daughter has been taken away, she is really angry. You're too much. Come back to settle accounts with you. Yuning couldn't say more, turned into a crystal jade, and chased Ye away. But Yekong was flying very fast, and he was afraid that the dragons would regret it, and they dared not stay, and went straight to the pass. When Yuning flew, Yekong had already advanced to the next level. Big Jade, Yuning sighed sadly, regretted it, counted it to herself, and lost her daughter. Xiao also followed, dismissing, mother, it's okay, when the kid dies, water and fire gourd will go to Huaikuina again, Deu will be able to come back, there will be no meeting for a while, just I see her annoy. Yuning felt that Xiao Yu had something to say, but she thought again, what if this boy passed the test with a gourd? Yekong passed through the array, and then he put down a big rock in his heart, and looked back at the white mist-like barrier, knowing that the mother dragon would not chase again. Hey, buddy is making a lot of money this time. You can use Gubeo for Chinese products, you can do this kind of thing. Really a prodigal girl, prodigal dragon. Yekong smiled happily, took out the fire and water gourd, and played with it. Haven't seen Gubao yet, and I don't know how powerful it is. Yekong thought about it, but he regretted it a little. This level is the fire level. Water can overcome the fire. Why did you forget to use water and fire gourd to absorb some water? But now I see ant go back, even if I can go back, if the mother dragon regrets it, she will lose money. Gubeo is not the same as the magic weapon. It does not need to be refined. It can be used when you have it. As long as you have a touch of knowledge, you can use it freely. Prior to this, Yekong had never wanted to take this ancient treasure as his own, so he didn't have a sense of God. I saw a trick in his hand and groaned 2 esoteric words, then Yekong lifted his hand, and a thin white silky light hit the water and fire gourd, and the white light quickly swept across the surface of the gourd. Even if this consciousness is hit, divine consciousness hit him, and a spiritual connection was established between him and the water fire gourd. He sensed in the gourd and was suddenly startled. What surprised him was not that there was a lot of water in the gourd, but that there was a whole crystal water dragon circling in the water. The prodigal dragon, Ecchi was shocked. Damn, how to bring Xiao out is really depressing. With such a little mother dragon, I just brought a time bomb. Let's go. Ecchi pointed at the water and fire gourd, and wanted to release Xiao, and asked what the prodigal dragon wanted to do. But this time, the little water dragon hurriedly called out, "My son stops quickly. I can't make a gourd." "Oh," Ecchi asked the fire gourd to stop, and then asked, "Why can't I come out?" "Xiaoshuolongdao, my son, there is a prohibition in this formation. Do not let the demons in all levels walk around at random, otherwise they will be banned and killed. If my son let me out, he will kill me." "That's the case." Ecchi nodded. "This restriction is really powerful, no wonder Huikui has transformed, and he is afraid to leave the Snake Valley, but who is the second she who set the prohibition? How can he? How about Niu X? Xiao, do you know how scared now?" "Huh, what did you do to me just now? You lied to me with the avatar. And you didn't say anything to me just now, how can you change your voice now? I don't want to understand first, this little jade is too much, let's learn first." Unexpectedly, the little water dragon grieved, "My son, you recognize the wrong dragon, I am Deu." "You're Deu? No wonder you're polite." But Ecchi knew that the two female dragons were so scheming, and asked, "What do you think you say you are Deu? When I don't know, you just want to use me to leave this team. Law, as soon as we go out and are not controlled by the restraint, it will be against me." Deu was bitter in heart, although she was bored in the battle, but she was reluctant to leave her mother. She was still misunderstood by Ecchi as tricky, she really wanted to cry without tears. "My son, in fact, the difference between me and Xiao is that I have a mark on my belly, I really don't want to run away. It's because Xiao is too naughty and put me in a gourd." Deu said in a meander. "Oh, where is the mark? Let me see," Ecchi said again. Although Deu is still far away from her transformation, she is still wise. According to their age, her thinking is still a little girl. It is a little embarrassing to let an opposite see the belly. Although she wasn't wearing any clothes, she was ashamed of having her belly held up to make people look. But Ecchi didn't have any messy thoughts. After all, the dragon's body and the woman's body were so far away from him that he would never have any thoughts. "Hurry up and show me. Aren't you Deu?" Ecchi suspected. Although Deu is docile, on some issues, he is more timid than Xiao. "My son, I swim in the water. If you want to see it, you can see it. Deu is also a woman. How can you hold your belly for you to see? If you don't believe me, let me out." Yan said that he was ready to be bombarded. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 193. 192 God Beast Fire Lin. But Ecchi stunned for a moment, but said, okay, I don't watch it, I think you believe me." Deu felt relieved and thought that the boy was very interesting. But then I heard Ecchi say again, "Really, one train is still embarrassed to do it. You're naked all the time, Cher, I'm not rare to see. How could you talk to a little girl like this?" Deu was depressed to vomit blood, and could not wait to find a cloth to wrap herself into a mummy. But before she was transformed, she had no clothes to wear. She took a sigh of relief and said, "Master, this is the 4th level of fire, and the guard is a beast, Fire Lin. The boy must be careful." "Yes." Ecchi was reminded by Deu's sentence, "Yeah, the immediate crisis has been eliminated, and he could be careless. Before that, he was lucky enough to pass. I think that if Huikui and Yuning tried their best, they would have died." "What's the origin of Huilin? Are you familiar with him? Can you help me with this boyfriend?" there is a saying that distant relatives are not as good as neighbors, and neighbors are not as good as the door. The two fire and water barriers are next to each other. Maybe they can speculate. However, Deo soon let him die. Although there is only one ban, but we cannot cross each other, we know Huaikui, because we knew each other before we came here, but we do nt know about this fire beast. Deo thinks about it. Huilin is a divine beast, and its strength is very scary. Although the fire attribute is overwhelmed by water, but the fire attribute of Huilin is too strong, ordinary water has no effect at all. Deo said, thinking of something, said, oh, generally Huilin is very lazy before transformation. When it's dark, he wants to sleep. If he wants to break through this level, the best way is to wait until it's dark and he can't sleep. Really? That's great news. Yekong was overjoyed, but then he smiled bitterly again. This is not the outside world, it is a world made up of formations. It is always daytime. How can there be night? Yekong was right. At least, he stayed here for more than 3 days and never saw the darkness. Deo stayed longer in this time, and of course it was clearer. She couldn't help but sigh, I haven't seen the night since I opened my mind. I really want to see what the moon and stars look like. Yekong laughed. The moon and the stars are very beautiful. You can watch it every day when we go out. The stars and the moon are not important, what is important is how to get out. Deo suddenly said, in fact, it is not necessarily night, as long as it gets dark. Yekong shook his head. He knew his weight and let it be dark. He asked himself if he did nt have the ability, even the ascended monk could not control X to control the night and day. However, Deo's words reminded Yekong if he could use other methods to make it dark. The best way is dark clouds. Although Yekong didn't have the method of forming a dark cloud, but Deo was a dragon, she had it, and she taught the method to Yekong and let Yekong practice. Before the demon cultivating spirits, he wouldn't refine magic weapons, and whether he can make and use tools is always the difference between humans and animals. But the demon also has a demon method. Although they have no tools, they each have a set of magic spells, and the dragon is an expert in sowing clouds and rain. About a day's effort, Yekong learned the magic of black clouds. Although the area is not large, it is okay to cover a mountain. Deo, let's go, believe me, I will show you the moon. After a short rest, Yekong stood up with the fire and water gourds. At this level, the area is very broad. At first glance, there are rugged stone mountains everywhere. There are no trees on the mountain, and the stones are glowing red. Know what, Deo, what I am most afraid of now is not encountering Huilin, but fear of getting lost, Yekong said with confidence. The most frightening thing is not only getting lost, but also meeting Huilin. Deo laughed. While they were chatting, suddenly not far away, a fiery red rock cracked, and a flame shot like a flamethrower. I rely, sneak attack. Yekong quickly flew up in the action of Yingluo, throwing a bone hammer in the air. The hammer smashed the big rock and shattered it. After the stone was smashed, a sign was revealed, which read, Exit, right ahead. Yekong is so funny, how can it be the same as a traffic sign on the earth? After walking a while, I saw a mountain that appeared in the distance, which is also a mountain of stones. The red stones on the mountain are strangely shaped. The mountain is not high, but it is this way that is seen the highest. The most distinctive thing about this mountain is that it can be seen from a distance. On the peak of the pyramid, there is a pinch of fiery flame. And the flame was burning fiercely, and the flames rarely trembled, but sprayed straight into the sky. Standing in the distance, it looked like a firehead reaching the largest lighter at this time. Around another stone suddenly burst open. Yekong encountered many more along the way. He didn't even want to hit it with a hammer. The guy was smashed before he could blow the fire. A sign appeared behind him, this is Huilin's residence. Yekong felt more and more wrong. It seemed to be playing a game. It was a little different from the treasure in his imagination. It was less thrilling and a whole lot more unexpected. Deu, is this second child in the stone sick? What are these things doing? Is it psychologically abnormal? Yekong asked. In fact, it is not clear to the old man Deu. She only developed her wisdom a few years ago, but she and her mother and sister also discussed this issue. It shouldn't be like you said. Ancient monks like Shi Lao are not as we can imagine, and they will never have a mental disorder. Yekong asked, what is he doing with these? If he wants to kill the passers-by, it is easy, why bother with these things? Daorode, don't you hear him say that, he is looking for someone, through the test, to find the person he needs. But who does he need? The person who helped him avenge him, or anyone else, has been so long, I'm afraid his enemies are dead. Deodeo, we guess that he is looking for an heir. Heir, Yekong heard it, and came to the spirit, thinking that the old man she could even catch the monsters in the metamorphosis period. It must be boundless mana. If he is his heir, inherit some powerful exercises and magic weapons. Then, can't I walk sideways in Kangnan? Deu also said, but we are only guessing. Although it was the speculation of several female dragons, Yekong felt that it was very likely. Contacting the old man to say to himself, it seems that the old man really wanted to find an heir. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 194. North Kanghuo. But then again, does it take a lot of trouble for an ancient monk to find an heir? If the old man Shi is really so powerful, as long as he says a word, there will be countless highly qualified family members to sign up for him to choose. Will he be able to make these famous churches and keep it for nearly 200,000 years? Deu also said, I don't know if you pay attention. These tests of Shi Lao are about character, not cultivation. I don't know about other tests, but we have water quality, you know. Helping Uncle Huaikui is actually the test, even if the passerby is a master, defeats my mother, but as long as he does not complete the task of supplying water, he will still be considered a failure. Yekong's help to Huaikui was just a matter of good faith. He didn't expect it at all. This was also a test. He thought he had the idea of absconding with Bao, and he could not help but burst into cold sweat. The old man really had good intentions. Yekong sighed, and he became interested in the identity of the old man, and asked, Deu, then, what exactly does the old man do for him? Unfathomable. Deu finished, adding another sentence, my mother guessed that Shi Lao Xiu could definitely take off to the next level. After listening to Deu's words, Yekong was even more puzzled. Since he could rise to the next level, why did he stay in this level and not leave? If a monk succeeds, he can soar and live with the world. This is the dream of all monks. Since the old man has such a large mana, why hasn't he soared? Moreover, ascension is not controlled by manpower. Even if you do not want to ascend, it is determined by the monk. But those are not Yekong's current consideration. What he wants to do is to deal with the fire in front of him. Since it is not a test of practice, it is a victory without a fight. If you cross the barrier by chance, there should be no problem. Yekong doesn't care if Huolin is on the lighter hill or not, cast it first. Finding a flat stone, Yekong sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes and groaned. Although the dragon's mantra was complicated, he was already ripe on his back. After a short while, Yekong suddenly opened his eyes. Suddenly, his hands quickly printed. Dragon spells are really amazing. With Yekong's casting, the aura of water attributes around him quickly concentrates on his body. Although the air is still air, it still has a moist and humid feeling. The dragons themselves have powerful magical powers, and Yekong's spells are a bit powerless. He can only use time to exchange mana, and for a moment, I can see Yekong raises his hand and offers water and fire gourd, water mist. As soon as Yekong ordered, numerous water mists spewed out from the water fire gourd. This water and fire gourd is a treasure of ancient monks. Yekong originally had doubts about its power to spray water and fire. Later, after understanding of Deu, it became clear that the water and fire gourd was not just water or fire. Prototype. In other words, the water and fire gourd can spray water column, water mist, water knife, water arrows, water bombs, and even a water machine gun with a continuous stream of bullets. This treasure is in hand, which is equivalent to an extra one that can release all water and fire attributes. How can a spell tool not be strong? A large amount of water spray spewed out and immediately condensed in the air to form clouds. But this was not what Yekong wanted, and he saw another bite in his and spill of blood. Yekong lacked the skills, so he had to use the essence of blood as a guide to urge the spell to burst out. Boom, there was a thunder on the ground, and the water mist cloud circled immediately into the sky, slowly flying to the flame mountain ahead. This spell was time-consuming and labor-intensive, and after Yekong's completion of the spell, he was almost out of power. He quickly took out the spirit wine and drank a few mouthfuls. Then he felt that the spiritual power had made up a lot. I went to see the flame mountain again, and saw that there were rolling black clouds over it, and the large area was darker. Yekong couldn't reach the state of rain even if he tried his best to cast, but what he wanted was only to let the sky be dark for a while, and he didn't ask for rain. The top of the flame mountain, the flame that was violently spraying into the sky was still whispering tongues of fire, but the dark clouds were very low, blocking the light on the mountain a lot. It's not too late, let's go, Deu urged. In fact, she didn't know whether the rumor that Huilin had fallen asleep in the dark was true. Go, Yekong didn't dare to stay, jumped on the flying carpet, and flew towards the direction of Flaming Mountain. Originally, Yekong thought that the flame spraying from the Flame Mountain should be very strong, and the temperature near it should also be very high. But as he flew past the Flame Mountain, he felt that the closer he got to the flame, the colder the temperature in the air became. What's going on? Am I feeling wrong? Yekong was a little surprised. He even deliberately moved the flight path closer to the flame, but felt nothing wrong. Really, the closer to the flame, the colder the air. The fiery red jet flames made the surrounding air cold like winter. When flying over the Flame Mountain, Yekong couldn't help but ask Deu. This phenomenon is so strange that he has never encountered it before. Who knows, a word from Deu asked him to immediately turn the flying carpet and fly back to the Flame Mountain. Deu said, "This is the cold fire north of Kangbei. There is an old saying that Kangbei is cold and Kangnan people are cold. It is said that the Kangbei cold is extremely cold, and they treat other beautiful women of the Kangnan like a race man." Deu said, but found that Yekong had turned around and flew backwards. "My son. What are you doing? You don't have enough mana, and the dark clouds won't be able to support it for a long time," Deu reminded. But Yekong couldn't help it anymore. Kangbei cold fire, the main material of the 5 elements sword formation. I'm afraid I missed it this time, and I will never be able to collect this Kangbei cold fire from now on, and I will not be able to make the Kangbei cold fire sword, let alone the legendary 5 elements sword formation. People without thought, he must worry about. Although he was still early to get Dan, but these things had to be prepared early, although Yekong knew the danger, but he was afraid that if he gave up, he would regret his whole life. He didn't want to regret it all his life, so he only took the risk. Above the sky, an old man sighed silently. "It's really greedy to kill people. In fact, he is quite optimistic about this little monk. But, he is the only one in 200,000 years, the tone is the closest to the owner." Originally, the old man had decided to let the little monk pass the barrier easily and directly let him go to the 3rd level test. If it was confirmed that this little monk really came from the same place as his master, his mission would be completed. But who knows, this little monk didn't know how to live or die, forcibly went to steal the North Kang fire. This makes Shi Lao feel that the boy is still too greedy, but Shi Lao thinks about it. Instead of directly failing Ye Kong, he decides not to help the boy. If he escapes successfully, it is best. If he is buried in Huilan's mouth, Shi Lao will not intervene. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 195. 1974 Fire Meteor. In the blink of an eye, Ye Kong had already flown near the top of the flame mountain. Under the sky full of clouds, the flame of the sky was even more red. When you get closer, you can see that the red flame center is actually transparent white. It's really cold. Generally speaking, monks adapt to cold and heat many times more than mortals, but the world-famous Kangbei cold fire is not ordinary. When approaching, even monks like Ye Kong, I also feel that the blood in the whole body has begun to coagulate. When you get closer, you feel that even the aura in your body is slow. No, I'm going to land. I can't stand it in the air. Ye Kong looked down, and saw that below, the highest point of the flame mountain stood with a pentagonal altar. Each of the 5 corners of the altar had a tall stone pillar. A thick black chain was attached to the stone pillars. 5 chains met at the center of the altar, and the Kangbei cold fire blasted into the sky from the center of these 5 chains. Deu, must the cold fire be attached to the iron chain in Kangbei? Ye Kong asked, puzzled. Deu didn't understand his question. He answered, I guess these chains are locked in the fire, and they will not be allowed to move. Locking the fire with an iron chain? It's funny. But if we want to get a cold fire, how can we untie the iron chain? When we see the cold fire, how to take it away is a problem. Deo laughed. Water and fire gourd. I heard that she was an old Kangbei fire from water and fire gourd, so don't blame Xiao for making it difficult for you. If she didn't give you this gourd, you can see the fire, it can't be taken. Ye Kong also thought about water and fire gourds, but Deo was in it. The power of the cold fire in the north of Kangbei was not ordinary, and he was worried that Deo would be overwhelmed. Knowing Ye Kong's concerns, Deo laughed, my son, you don't need to worry about it. The water and fire in this gourd don't affect each other. After Deo said, he urged, go ahead, let's do it. In a moment, the dark clouds hanging over the mountain will dissipate. It is good. Ye Kong lowered his height, and before the flying carpet landed, he jumped down. It was really cold. Ye Kong exhaled, and the white mist quickly turned into a piece of ice and sprinkled on the ground of the altar. Looking again, the 5 iron cables locked by the cold were covered with ice. Dark clouds rolled in the sky, huge flames sprayed from the altar on the top of the mountain, and the source of the flames was covered with ice cones on the thick black iron chains of the 5 men's arms. But what surprised Ye Kong even more was that the Fire Lin was lying on a jade platform under the altar to sleep. This was the first time Ye Kong saw such a beast, only to find that the so-called Fire Lin was full of fire. Unicorn. Unlike Ye Kong's imagination, this Huolin is not very big, probably as big as a big wolf dog, which makes Ye Kong a little contemptuous. Huolin, it turns out to be a kitten. You better not wake up, otherwise I will catch you as a mount. Ye Kong snorted coldly, offering water and fire gourds, meditating on tactics, forefinger and together, pointing at the cold away fire. Close. I saw the cold fire spraying into the sky, as if attracted by a force, slowly shifted, and the reverse direction of the fire head followed the gourd. Subsequently, the cold fire body locked by the chain was slowly pulled out of array, and quickly received into the water fire gourd. But this is not over yet. Ye Kong's request is not array. He wants to put the cold fire into the gourd. In this way, the 5 black chains can be wrapped away. These chains have not been damaged in any way for more than 100,000 years in the flames and severe cold, and they are obviously not ordinary materials. Seeing that the cold fire in the north of Kangbei was about to be finished, suddenly a shocking roar was remembered behind him. Roar, Huolin was angry. As a guardian spirit beast, there would be a spiritual connection between the guardian and the treasure. The cold fire was taken away, which made it angry. Yekong looked back, and saw that the fire lin was no longer like what he had just seen. A kitten grew quickly and grew several times in the blink of an eye, turning into a giant fire unicorn. Quickly, Yekong let the water and fire gourd release his hand to continue to collect the cold fire in the north of Kangbei, and he quickly took out the Wujuo sword. Huolin spit out a scorching fire, then kicked her hind legs, and rushed to the altar. Yekong didn't dare to carelessly, one turned over, avoiding the burning of the fire, and then, without retreating, rushed towards the fire lin that pounced on. Dang dang dang, there was a sound of metal impact, and Uso sword flew several golden red sparks on Huolin's body. Yekong turned around and stood behind Huolin. This guy snatched the cold fire and dared to take the initiative to attack, which made Huolin's anger completely ignite. Ka! Huolin's sharp claws swiped on the ground of the altar in protest, making a harsh noise. Why? I thought I was afraid of you. Come, Yekong provoked Huolin, attracting its attention, and the water fire gourd over there had already charged most of the cold fire. The angry Huolin swooped over again, and the two stout front claws carried the sound of wind, as if to tear everything apart. With a bang, the stone debris was flying. The heavy jade paved on the altar couldn't stop Huolin's claws. Looking at a large hole like a mouth behind him, Yekong couldn't help but marvel at the blow. The power of this beast was really fierce. Come, you come, Yekong called out, jumped off the altar, and ran on the stone mountain. Huolin accompanied the shadow, and saw a red fire flew fast along a white shadow on the stone mountain. Roar, Huolin chased a few times, but didn't follow it. It immediately stopped, and howled at the sky. I saw the aura of fire around him quickly condensed, and soon turned into a huge ball of fire. Then, the fireball was like a meteorite, smashing into Yekong with a blazing fire. This is a fiery meteor, Dao in the water and fire gourd quickly reminded, Huolin's housekeeping spell, be careful, you can't stop it by your cultivation. Hearing this, Yekong stopped the idea of resistance, sacrificed the bone shield, and flew backwards. Boom, the fiery meteor hit the place where Yekong was standing just now. Yekong found the fiery meteor just now. A big pit on the ground left aside for a while. The great thing is that the fire hit the ground and was still burning. The red stones were cracked into several sections, but they did not stop. Looking at the giant bone shield in hand, Mars has been splashed out and burned a few black holes. This beast is really powerful. Ordinary defensive devices can't stop the splashing Mars. Yekong's surprise did not last long, because soon there was something that shocked him even more. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 196. 15 Meteor Fire Rain. Oh, Huolin looked up and changed another roaring voice. The surrounding aura immediately violently trembled, and in the air, numerous huge fireballs were rapidly condensing. This is a meteor fire and rain. Hurry, Dao shouted in panic. This meteor fire and rain came fast, and countless fire groups, large and small, fell in the air, and the flame mountain seemed to have reached the end of the world. Yekong didn't hide, and he couldn't hide anywhere. Instead, he twisted and rushed into the fire group. Don't you die, Dao exclaimed, so severe meteor fire and rain that even she did not dare to make a hard connection, and as long as the little monk Yekong had a little bit of it, he would be burned to death off. Relax, Yekong not only rushed forward, but closed his eyes. Look for death, Huolin's heart said something. It squatted outside the scope of Huo, even relaxed its two hind legs, and watched this little guy who didn't know how to live or die burned into ashes. But soon, it stood up again. Because Yekong was flickering in the dense meteor fire and rain, his movements gracefully passed a ball of fireballs. Its rhythm. Yekong has grasped the rhythm of the meteor fire and rain. Although the number of these fireballs is amazing, there are still a lot of gaps. If you master the rhythm, you can do it. People are in it, and the fire is not sticky. Is it Yingluo? Dao was surprised. She was a wise woman who had been in the process. She had never seen Yingluo, but she heard Yuning say that this Yingluo was not only beautiful but also a powerful one. In the stunt, women dance with frowns and men dance elegantly. Yuning was so amazed at the time that both daughters were imagining that they must find a Shadow Clan man to be Lang Jun in the future. When Dao was surprised, an old man in the sky couldn't help but exclaim, "It's a shadow dance." Although he hasn't left here for so many years, the continuous passers can still give him a lot of information. He originally thought that Shadow Wu had long since become extinct, but who knows, but once again saw this little gas refining monk. Is it the Shadow Clan? Then I have to open a net to him. The old man went to see Yekong's face again, but finally shook his head. The old man's familiarity with the Shadow Clan people is definitely not the Shadow Clan people. When the old man found that Yekong only knew a little bit of Shadow Wu, when he was not a Shadow Clan, he raised his arms and decided not to help. Yekong's decision was really right. He opened his eyes and swept the ground, only to see that there was already a sea of fire on the ground, and he didn't know how these fires could burn so vigorously on the surface of the stone. There are flames everywhere on the top of the stone mountain. If he does not fly up against the fire and rain, no matter how he hides, he will be burned into fly ash. However, even if he was flying in midair, he was not safe. Huolin rushed up again. Yekongfi, I was flying in the air. I thought Huolin would not jump so high, but who knows, as soon as Huolin left the ground, there were two more clouds of fire under his hind paws. With the cloud of fire, Huolin flew forward. I am a fairy, will he fly? Buddy will not play with you anymore. In a short while, Water and Fire Gourd has successfully collected all the cold fires in Kangbei, and Yekong did not need to continue to confront Huolin. As for the iron cables, let's forget about it for the time being. Escape is important, and don't be so unruly as a person. Yekong threw out the flying carpet, cancelled the ascension, and fell down, just avoiding the fluttering fire Lin. But the beast wasn't so foolish. Huolin fluttered and missed. The fire reached the extreme, raised his flaming head, and shouted into the air, "Oh!" I saw that the fire Lin in the air increased sharply, and the speed was amazing, faster than blowing, and it increased several times in a blink of an eye. Then, the fire-red body of the fire Lin was pressed down like a mountain. Yekong, who just caught the water and fire gourd, didn't know if it was good. He urged the flying carpet to escape, but Huolin was faster than him this time, and his huge claws were pressed down. Spiritual charm. Golden bodyguard. Yekong quickly slaps himself into 3 defenses. The outermost is a black water character. Outside his body is a circle of golden light-like body, while his body is a white spiritual shield. However, for the beast, these 3 layers of defense are simply unbeatable. Its huge front claws are shot on the spiritual formation method. The formation method is deformed and squashed like a balloon, and finally, the bubbles are generally broken. Watching Lingzio's destruction, Yekong's heart was also very anxious. He finally realized the power of the divine beast, and for a moment he was greedy and forced himself to extremes. The top of the head is like a mountain of fire, and it is pressed down fiercely. The top is unable to withstand it, the thorns cannot be pierced, and the escape cannot escape. There is a sea of fire on the ground. Seeing Yekong was about to be crushed by Huolin, at a critical moment, Dao shouted, "Let me out." No, Yekong refused without thinking. He knew that as soon as Dao came out, he would die. Only I can save you. You let me go out, A crystal water dragon rushed around in the water and fire gourd before the ancestor of Huan Quan. Let Yekong regret it. It is better not to let the five elements sword formation link Cambodia, or let Huan Quan's ancestors fall asleep. Therefore, since then, Yekong has decided not to let anyone sacrifice for himself. Hurry me out. It's too late, Dao slammed into the inner wall of the fire and water gourd. Shut up. If my dignified man needs a woman to exchange her life, even if I'm alive, I won't be able to lift my chest. Yekong finished, grit his teeth and urged the flying carpet to fly to Huolin's hind legs. Dao was silent. She didn't say anything. At this moment, she felt a feeling she had never experienced before. This was something she had never experienced in her long life. This is the insistence of men and the dignity of men. However, this man with dignity then did something rather stingy. He said I was a woman, but I didn't say I was a mother dragon. Dao bumped her heart for the sentence, but soon she discovered that Yekong was attacking the two between Huolin's hind legs. What are you doing? Hammering eggs. Generally speaking, this part is very important for men. After being attacked, the pain is very intolerable. However, for Huolin, it is difficult to say if it is weak here. At least the sledgehammer smashed the instrument twice has no response. Damn, it's an iron egg. Yekong could not help but curse. He had been pressed by Huolin's huge body and kept falling, getting closer to the fire below. He is a fire beast who attacked him with water spells. Dao was embarrassed to say, and Xiao Shuolong's blushing, although she soon became savvy, but she already knew that something girls could not see. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 197. Life and Death Line in 1996. Yes, there is bow in hand. Why don't you know how to use it? Yekong quickly instructed Dao not to swim out, and then quickly offered water and fire gourds. Water sword. Poke an egg. I saw that the water and fire gourd spit out a water sword quickly, the faint water sword, the sword sharply stabbed between the two hind legs of Huolin. Well, a deafening scream sounded in mid-air. Originally, he wanted to squeeze Yekong into the fire, and now he flew away like a balloon that was pierced. Huh? Fight with me? Just fight with a battery. Yekong hit Fei Huolin, with a good face, and couldn't help but laugh again. He's a fairy, and I'm really shy. Shuolong's fart eye, and poked Huolin's egg again. Hey, we Yekong, but a three-way killer, let everyone who wants to break off the grandchildren come over. Hearing Yekong's words, Dao suddenly exclaimed, Ah! You, hit my mother? No wonder she came back to walk. Rest assured, Yekong comforted, I stabbed with a bone ruler Fu Bao for a moment, it won't hurt her too much, there will be no danger to her life, nor will she create life. Then let's leave soon, Dao urged, but whispered in his heart, what does it mean not to create life? Yegongza speaks profoundly. Boom, Huolin didn't know how far he fell, so one hit him on the desolate stone ground, and the thick Huolin dragged the ground out of a dozen-foot-long trajectory. A lazy donkey rolled, and Huolin stood up shaking again. This time, it was really angry. Although the divine beast is more difficult to transform, and it is harder to develop sage, it still knows anger. Originally thought that he could easily kill this little human monk with his own abilities, but never expected that the ability of this little human monk was underestimated again and again. Oh, it snorted with a pyrotechnic nose. Then, it raised its head, opened its mouth, and spit out a blood-red bead that was red and glowing with warmth. Beast Dan, yes. It was irritated, it decided to desperate and launch a fatal blow. Roar, Huolin roared, the sky shook. I saw that red neodon turned into a burning flame, and then the flame hit Huolin. Instantly, Huolin was surrounded by the raging fire. Fire Flame Refinery. This is the ultimate killing move of the beast Fire Lin. Fire Lin, surrounded by a layer of flames, finally revealed its most terrifying true face, just like the same Kirin god, bronze bells, and there was a flaming flame. It's anger. Huolin rushed out, her forelegs matched with tacit rushing, and ran faster and faster, turning into a red light on the wasteland full of stones, dragging a long fire light behind her. Not good, it's coming. Yekong has been flying fast, he has even seen that layer of white cloud barrier, but his speed can't compare with Huolin. The fire calamity does not just form a layer of fire film around its body. Its real effect is to excite its own fire properties to obtain power and speed several times greater than usual. Bang, Honglin, who turned into a ball of fire, directly hit Yekong's body. The huge impact force caused a layer of golden light and a layer of white light outside Yekong's body to instantly dissipate. Fortunately, the inner layer of the inkwell appeared in time, helping Yekong to release most of his strength. But even so, Yekong was knocked out of the flying carpet and fired like a shell. The shell hit the ground and vomited blood, and Yekong finally realized the horror of Huolin. This impact had already severely injured him, not even the strength to sit up. The aura in Ki is even more distracted, and flows backwards towards the limbs and bones. The pain is as if the meridians are broken and unbearable. Yekong hurriedly patted the storage bag. Fortunately, Lianruolan gave a lot of elixir. He swallowed it with a solid elixir and took out a bottle of elixir for internal injuries. But before he put the elixir into his mouth, Huolin swooped up again, pressing his empty hands on the ground next to his head with two front paws. Roar, Huolin yelled at Yekong, a pair of brass bells glared at Yekong, its body was full of flames, Yekong had clearly felt the raging temperature. However, these flames had not yet burned Yekong's body, and his inkwell's inner armor had emerged as a whole, resisting the high temperature of the flame. Huolin looked at the boy who was suppressed by himself. He liked to watch the prey panic and fear. This was its greatest fun, especially the prey that angered it. But he didn't see it. Yekong gasped, exhaled spit, and filled his mouth with blood, but he smiled. Sun and his immortal board, Lao Tzu thought that this life will only let women crush, who knows how to let you beast pressure. If you beast does not kill me today, I will cramp your skin in the future. Life is the most dangerous at all times. Yekong's hooligan nature was revealed. How people treat me, how I treat people. No matter whether it is human or beast, I will make you pay a painful price. In the face of death, never say a word. Although he did not understand the human language, Huolin still saw Yekong's meaning. The little guy was not convinced, he had not realized the failure. Then you let you die? Huolin released a sharp claw, and stared at Yekong with anger. The sharp claw tip was already on Yekong's chest. The ink armor emits grayish-black light, using its last power to resist the sharp triangular nails of the claws. However, all resistance was dismissive under strong force. With a zilla sound, the upper-class defense weapon Mumijia was cut through a smooth crack, exposing the real skin inside. Little human monk, you just wait to die. I want to dig out your heart alive. Huolin was rude, and once again gave out his sharp claws. But just at this moment, I saw the white light of the water and fire gourd in Yekong's waist flashing. Then, a brilliant brilliance like a jade rushed up, as fast as lightning, and even Huolin was surprised by the scene, raised his head to watch. Ang, a dragon yelled for 9 days. This is the big jade coming out of trouble. Fly up into the sky, Deu oscillates wildly and circled. Then, the 5 claws slammed one by one, and the dragon's head lifted up, making a loud roar. Expensive. Water dragons, sky, clouds, and rain. Numerous clouds quickly gathered in the sky, and I saw Deu shuttle back and forth between the clouds, and suddenly appeared, Long Wei showed. As a dragon, Using this magic spell is more powerful than Yekong's use. The thick cloud layer instantly covers the entire sky. As the cloud color deepens, the entire world is darkened. The winds rose, and the clouds became large clouds. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 198. Fate of the Great Jade in 1977. Dao's crystalline body wandered back and forth in the dark clouds, bringing out numerous currents, and the little currents made a thrilling noise. The more current gathers, the more. After a short while, a bright electric snake exploded in the dark clouds. Boom, long, after the loud noise, there was a long roar of thunder and lightning. Heavy rain, like a waterfall, wets this dry land for 200,000 years. Stab, stab, is the sound that keeps ringing on Yekong. He looked at the sound and saw the fire Lin wrapped in the flames of his body. Alas, Fangfo was extremely afraid of the rain. Roar, Huo Lin roared angrily, but this could not stop the pouring rain. It was already powerless to fight Yekong. It looked anxiously to find a place to avoid the rain. But what scared him even more was that the darkness was like the night space, letting it feel sleepy for a while, and its eyelids were closing down slowly and irresistibly. The raindrops in the sky continued to hit Huolin's body, and those flames were soon dying. Eventually, Huolin couldn't resist. He looked up helplessly at the sky and yawned. Subsequently, Huo Dan was retrieved, his body crooked, fell in the heavy rain, and made a thunderous sound. It's asleep. Dao, you're too good. Yekong, who wasn't so injured, jumped up in surprise. But his surprise did not last long. A huge bucket of thick lightning suddenly appeared from above the dark clouds, banging loudly, knocking the large jade that was turning in the dark clouds out of the clouds and falling straight to the ground. No, it's because the ban has taken effect. Yekong hurriedly picked up the fire and water gourd and wanted to collect Dao into the gourd to avoid the ban. But not waiting for Yekong to sacrifice the ancient treasure, there was a more fierce lightning in the sky, tearing the clouds and hitting the falling jade. Ka, with a loud noise, Dao was beaten to death, leaving no residue. Yekong took the fire and water gourd and stood on the ground stupidly, watching this tragedy happen. The rain was still falling, and Yekong did not turn on the spiritual shield again, and Ren Yushui wet his whole body. His eyes were bewildered. At this moment, I didn't know, it was rain or tears. Dao, after a long while, a heartbreaking shout rang through the rain, and I saw that a young man's figure stepped on a flying sword and soared into the sky. Above the dark clouds, the sky is bright. However, there was no one he was looking for, long. Dao. I said I want to take you to see the stars and the moon. I don't know how beautiful the night outside, you come out soon. The hoarse shout echoed in the dark clouds, as if the thunderous sound could not be suppressed. It's all you. I'm going to kill you, Yekong growled and drove the flying sword to the ground. In the heavy rain, a white and bright sword became longer and bigger. Come on, the huge sword was cut off suddenly, and a white light curtain swept across in general. Boom, Huolin, who was asleep, was smashed into the air, but the beast was a beast, and it didn't matter at all about the attack of ordinary magic instruments. It turned over and made a sound of snoring. I'll kill you. You beast who doesn't understand personnel, Yekong rushed madly, waving his old fist and slamming madly against Huolin's head. Suddenly, an old voice sounded in the sky, why are you doing this? You can't kill it with your abilities at all, and you still have to break through the storm while it's dark. Yekong's movements seemed to think something. Later, he drove a flying sword, pierced through the clouds, and stood above the clouds. Uncle Shi, I know that you are not an ordinary person. You can raise Dao, right? Yekong said, wiping out the rain on his face, and taking out the fire and water gourd. Uncle Shi, this is the cold fire in Kangbei that I took. Can I give it back to you? And Yekong hurriedly picked off the beast bag and held it high, and the queen of gold-winged ants, I will give it back to you. And this ancient treasure calabash, as long as you revive Deu. Anything you want. It's really affectionate and righteous, said the old man lightly. These are all good things that are rare to see outside. Do you really want to exchange them? You know, it's just a dragon. After all, it's just a new one. It's just a wise beast. No. She is not a beast, Yekong roared. Why do people treat me, so how do I treat people? Deu, to save me, at all costs of the thunder and lightning, if I am still struggling with things, then I am a beast. Without humanity, that's worse than a beast. Boy, I have to admit that you are the only one who has touched the old man for 200,000 years. The words of the old man made Yekong see hope, because the old man did not deny that he could save Deu. However, the old man then turned sharply and snorted coldly, saying, however, the old man has no reason to save her. She died to save you. What does the old man do? The old man never shows kindness. Then I give you a reason. Yekong looked up at the sky and asked loudly, dare to ask Shi Lao, how does Deu get out of water and fire gourd? Don't say that it has nothing to do with you. If this water and fire gourd is not controlled by anyone, isn't it? We'll let her out. Here can make me gourd owner cannot feel, and who controls the gourd, who else is you? The old man did not expect this boy to be so savvy. He did a little thing by himself and was guessed so quickly. The old man was incapable of speaking by Yekong, and Yekong then said, since it is Shi Lao who releases the big jade, how can it be said that it doesn't matter? Therefore, it is only natural to save Deu. You cannot shirk it? This old man Shi was asked open-mouthed, and it was a while before he scolded, human voice is human, and my husband sees you as the most inhumane. My husband saved your life and didn't even listen to you. Thank you, now lay on the old man, old man. Hearing that the old man was loose in tone, Yekong hurriedly gave a salute, thanking him, Shibo, Yekong, thank you for your fist care. Yekong will remember your great grace, and you must set up a living card for you when you go back, I pray you every day. The old man listened funny, and yelled, you can't be your ancestor when you are an old man. It is not the ancestors of the Ye family, it is better than the ancestors of the Ye family, but the old man is so old that even his own ancestors do not suffer. Okay, stop talking nonsense, the old man shouted, I see that she really has a responsibility in this matter. The old man hasn't answered you yet, don't rush to thank, this thing also has your responsibility, so, only after you have completed all the tests will the old man take the shot. If you die on the road, the old man will be incapable of helping. Yekong nodded and thought, okay. In order to save Deu, I will also pass your BT test. After Yekong said, seeing the water calabash gourd and the spirit beast bag in his hand, he asked, then how, brother? You keep it first. If you die, I will take it away. The old man said no more. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 199. Twilinguin. Yekong put the spirit beast bag back to his waist, and then he was relieved. In any case, Deu still had hope of life. As soon as Deu died, the raindrops became smaller and smaller, and the dark clouds in the sky were gradually spreading out. The sky was slightly invented, and Yekong didn't dare to delay it anymore. Entering Tug 1, I saw that it was very narrow here, as if came to a passageway. The sides of the passageway were wide, but they were short and vertical, which was about 1.8 meters. If you come to a taller person, you must bend your head down. The passage was empty and the black ceiling pressed low, feeling as if it had come to the sewer. Under his feet is the yellow earth, very flat yellow earth, no stones, no sand. Yekong stepped on, very solid yellow earth, and I do not know what monsters will be encountered. Yekong was not in a hurry to go inside. He first took a set of clean clothes from the storage bag, and evaporated the moisture on his body with the fire power, and then changed into clean clothes. After changing clothes, he took out another spiritual charm and opened the array. Then he sat cross-legged and suffered a minor injury just now. He had to get a quick treatment. For a monk, physical harm is minor, and physical harm is a bit. As long as it is not fatal, the problem is not serious and repair is quick. The monks are most afraid of the damage of ki, meridians, and consciousness. If ki is injured, the practice will decline, and even the aura cannot be gathered. If the meridian is injured, it will affect future practice. The meridian runs, as far as the consciousness is injured, it will be chaotic, unconscious, and even become a walking dead. Yekong was just shaken a bit, causing the backlash of the aura on the meridians, so it was not too serious. In addition, the number of elixir prepared by Lianrulan was sufficient, and the quality was first class. Yekong took a lot of elixir, and couldn't help sighing in his heart. No wonder so many people were tying up the elixir mountain. There is elixir and no elixir, that's completely different. Regardless of practice or healing, with elixir, it will definitely do more with less. If it is high-quality elixir of superior quality, the effect will be more significant. After staying in the formation for 2 days, Yekong felt that his injuries had basically recovered, so he closed the formation and continued to explore. Yekong slowly walked into the depths of the passage. According to the previous levels, Yekong guessed that there would also be a monster with soil properties, and I don't know if this monster is powerful. There is no grass on the open yellow ground, and the eyes are yellow, which makes people feel dull. But Yekong didn't dare to care, the roof was so short that it was extremely unfavorable to the monks. His Sumita inner armor was damaged, so he had to hold the Urso sword in one hand and a bone shield in the other. Oh, a hole suddenly opened in the yellow earth, and a dirt-colored serpent rushed over. Go! Yuzuo Jian swept out a black light and cut the poisonous snake into 2 sections, but the snake's head still opened its mouth wide, exposing 2 fangs, and looked at Yekong viciously with small eyes. Like most people, Yekong didn't like the snake. He formed a fireball, threw it, and a plate of grilled snake meat appeared. Is this embarrassing? Yekong snorted and turned to move on. But as soon as I stepped out, I immediately felt that something was wrong, and my foot went empty. Not good, Yekong exclaimed, and his feet sank into the lowest swamp. There seemed to be a suction in this swamp. As soon as the foot fell, it felt dragged down, getting deeper and deeper. How could Yekong drag it down, and the USO sword fluttered in his hand, roaring, "Cone!" The slender blade of the Ursuo sword immediately became like a thin whip. The whip head was nailed into the deep solid loess at the rear. The whip head then split off and caught the ground like an expansion screw. Yekong used this force to climb out of the loess swamp. Looking back and forth, Yekong could not help but curse another poison. I saw the loess swamp and the solid loess behind it. From the appearance, they were exactly the same and could not be distinguished at all. Coupled with the deliberate arrangement of a poisonous snake to attract attention, I am afraid that no one will be spared. But fortunately, I climbed up and went to see the loess swamp, but there was a return to calmness. I fell just a moment ago, and there was no ripple at all. Yekong took out a spirit stone, threw it at his feet, and slowly pushed forward with his sword. When it reached a certain position, it looked at the spirit stone, suddenly fell, and soon it was submerged. Yekong took out the array flag, inserted it on the edge of the loess swamp, raised his position, and then he took 2 more steps on the side and continued to test with spirit stones. Yekong wanted to find a pavement that could pass through it, but he spent a lot of his spirits, but the road was not found. Looking at the small flag inserted in a straight line, Yekong shook his head and said, "It seems that there is no way, you must walk over the swamp." Through the swamp, it was difficult for the monk. Yekong stepped on a bone sword, and slowly flew forward. Because it is too short, even if the bone sword is close to the ground, Ecchi still has to bend his head. This is not a good phenomenon. If he encounters an enemy, he will not stand upright. Ecchi believed that he would not triumph if he flew in the past. The enemy will definitely appear, so he can't fly fast and is ready to turn around at any time. But after flying for a long time, he didn't encounter anything. Ecchi let Fei-Jian stop, and then he threw a spirit stone at his feet. The spirit stone quickly fell, and the swamp like a loess swallowed up the spirit stone like a mouth. It doesn't seem to have reached the margins. Ecchi continued to fly forward. What he didn't see was, soon, a bubble popped out from under the loess. Ecchi flew for a while, and threw down a piece of spirit stone, which was still swallowed by the loess. Ecchi urged Fei-Jian again, but this time, the abnormal shape was highlighted. Under the seemingly calm loess swamp, a yellow-colored tentacle suddenly broke through the ground, and the speed was astonishing. The tentacle was not only fast, but also very clever. When it came out, it stuck to Ecchi's foot. Oh, Ecchi didn't have time to respond at all, and he pulled Fei-Jian off with a strong force. In the blink of an eye, Ecchi sank below the waist. At the critical moment, he grabbed the flying sword and urged the flying sword to rise up, but the tentacle was pulling him down hard. Ecchi was relieved by the short balance. This tentacle was as sudden as the water ghost, and it really surprised him. Calming down, Ecchi had a solution. He grabbed the flying sword in one hand, took out the Wuzuo sword in the other, inserted it into the swamp, and shouted cut. What surprised Ecchi, however, was that Wuzuo entered the swamp, but he did not respond at all, and his mind and connection disappeared. Fortunately, Ecchi's hand kept holding the hilt of the sword, otherwise the sword would be gone. His fairy is stupid. What should I do? Ecchi controlled the flying sword to rise upward, but the strength of the tentacle was not small. Ecchi only had to pinch with his feet. Not to mention, being stunned by Ecchi's full strength, the tentacle was released. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 200. 1919. Ecchi was overjoyed. Hurry up. Fei-Jian took his hand and flew up, pulling his legs out of the loess swamp. Before Ecchi's turn was happy, a thicker tentacle was drilled into the loess, and he swung around Ecchi's waist and pulled it suddenly. The force was strong enough, and dragged Ecchi's entire body down the swamp, leaving only his head. Old man, what the are you making? Ecchi just opened his mouth and wanted to scold, and when he saw the yellow soil in front of him, he stretched out a little tentacle and drilled into his mouth. Is this the legendary beast? I think Ecchi has also been mouth-blown. Wouldn't it be if... You old man, you are too indecent. Of course, Ecchi didn't dare to yell at him, using his free hand to send out a fireball. But it didn't work. The fireball hit the tentacles, and it just hit the tentacles for a while. Ecchi quickly changed to wind blade again, a wind knife flashed out, and immediately split the little tentacle into two sides like a banana. Suddenly, Ecchi had a flash of light in his brain. Fire attribute spells are not very powerful against earth attribute objects. On the contrary, earth attributes have restraints against fire attributes. Therefore, the use of fireball is invalid. The wind blade technique is different. The wind attribute is a variation of the wood attribute and the water attribute, and the wood attribute can restrain the soil attribute. Unfortunately, the water attribute in the wind attribute is overcome by the soil. If there is a simple wood attribute spell, it must be more effective. However, Ecchi really does not have any wood-based spells. Ecchi's waist tension was getting stronger and stronger, and he couldn't fight at all. Seeing that his mouth and nose were going to be torn off, In a hurry, he grabbed a handful of spirit grass seeds. There are pitcher plants, as well as lower-grade mid-level spirit grasses used as a sign. Originally, these spirit grasses wanted them to grow fast. Before use, they must be nourished with spiritual power. Strangely enough, in this swamp, as soon as the spirit grass seeds were taken out, they started to hulala, growing wildly, and growing at an astonishing speed. In a blink of an eye, a prison cage covered Yekong, and the tentacle was overwhelmed. The roots of the spirit grass quickly penetrated into the tentacles, and then took root inside, and the tentacles retracted quickly. Jinn is afraid of fire, fire is afraid of water pouring, water needs soil to stop, soil is afraid of wood, wood is afraid of gold chopping. Sure enough, the ancients did not deceive me, Yekong sighed, breaking through the wood. When he came out, he couldn't help but bewildered, and saw that the pitcher plant that stepped on his feet had grown to 3 times the size of the past, and those other spirit grasses had grown several times larger than usual. Not only that, but those grasses were growing at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. What's going on? Yekong thought about it for a moment, and then he looked happy. Obviously, the reason why these spirit grasses grow so mad is that the loess below them must not be ordinary soil, and the soil is full of aura, which is of course suitable for the growth of spirit grass. Unexpectedly, in the test of this old man, all of them are treasures. With this idea, Yekong no longer waited, took out a storage bag, wanted to fill some yellow soil, but he was one step late, and in the blink of an eye, the loess swamp in front of him had been thick and thick with various spirits. Grass covered. It's not good here, go to the front. Yekong no longer needed to drive a flying sword, and stepped forward directly on the grass under his feet. After running for a while, beyond the scope of the growth of Linko, Yekong desperately filled the storage bag with yellow mud. Although his storage bag is not as huge as a storage bracelet, this storage bag can be nested, that is, a storage bag and a storage bag. He snatched so many monks from the bone gate and the bone gate, and the storage bags would have been exhausted. It's all treasure, Yekong hummed the small song while pretending to be filled with the yellow mud. However, his happiness did not last for a long time. Suddenly, a yellow light flashed, and Yekong's eyes blossomed. He watched again, and saw that he had stood in a large decorated palace. Hey, Mr. Shi, why are you so stingy? Just pass on your loess, just pass me on, do you know how much I risk? Huh, do you think this is ordinary soil? Tell you that these spiritual soils are called Xiyang soil. It is very difficult for outsiders to do a little bit. You have 3 storage bags, isn't it enough? Suddenly snorted, the palace echoed. Ye hollowed out, old man, if it wasn't for precious, I wouldn't be pretending. Are you a lazy person when you are lazy? Shi Lao didn't pay attention to Yekong. In fact, he had a lot of soil there. Ye's empty 3 storage bags were only 9 cattle and 1 hare. Shi Lao went on to say, well, here is the 3rd test and the last test. If you pass, you are eligible to get me, no, my master's gift. Your master? Yekong was inexplicably surprised. The old man Shi was so powerful. Think about his master, how awesome. You don't need to know these for the time being, do you see the door in front of you? Yekong looked up and saw that on the steps of the palace, where the throne was usually placed, there was a door with golden light. I didn't know what mystery was. Uncle Shi, is this 3rd test difficult? Yekong asked in 2 steps. It's not difficult to say, it's easy to say. Uncle Shi was ambiguous again. Your answer is too general. Would you tell me something first? Yekonlei refused to enter. The old man with a smile laughed, then I will give you a statistical result. So far, there are 7,652 people who have entered this hole, of which 70% can pass the first test, and more than half of these 70% can pass the second test. So much, Yekong was depressed, thinking he was smart enough to pass the test so much, and he asked, "How many percent can pass the third test?" The sound of the old man's sneer came, "How many percent?" The old man told you that the third test has passed, so far no one. Otherwise why the old man must wait for so many years? All those who passed the previous test are in this third. Die. Ah, Yekong opened his mouth wide and smiled bitterly, "No, isn't this the third level so difficult? Shivo, I'll give you back everything, can you let me go, I won't challenge these, is it okay?" The old man with a smile laughed, "In fact, it is just to answer a few questions. As long as you answer correctly, you can succeed. If you can't answer it, eliminate immediately." Yekong was still waiting to say something, but felt a sudden strong force behind him, pushing him directly into the golden door. "Hey, old man. I'm not ready yet, Yekong froze and stumbled into a room. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 201. The third test of the year 2000. Yekong went in for a while, because the scene in front of him was not like this world at all. I saw that the ground was covered with glass, and there were rows of fluorescent lamps under the glass. The most outrageous thing was that in the center of this round room, there was a small transparent table like plexiglass. God! On the small table, even a computer. Am I back to Earth? Yekong wiped his eyes, walked staggeringly, and sat on a round high chair near the round table. If there is another beauty host opposite, it will be exactly like the Happy Dictionary. "Creator, can you start now?" A pleasant female voice suddenly appeared from the computer. Regardless of whether Yekong starts or not, the female voice then said, "There are 3 questions in this level. The questions are in the form of multiple choice questions. The answers to each question will be displayed on the screen in front of you. One item can be, if all answers are correct, even if the test is successful, if there is a wrong answer, it will be immediately transmitted to the Valley of Death. I wish you success." When he saw the first question, Yekong finally understood why there had been no successful people for so many years. "Raising your head and looking at the moon is a silent night" quatrain of Li Bai, a famous poet in the Tang dynasty. Please choose the next sentence from the answers below. A. Send 1,000 miles of love. B. Look down at your hometown. C. Look down at your hometown. D. It is suspected to be frost on the ground. Seeing this mentally handicapped problem, Yekong almost vomited blood. Are you a schoolboy? Come on, it's difficult for you to come out and have depth, okay? However, this kind of problem is simple for Yekong, but for the people in the Kangnan continent, it is as difficult as heaven. If they do nt hear the poem, they have heard of it, they speak this eye-catching Chinese, and no one understands it. No wonder so many years, no one succeeded. The key is that there was not a visitor to the earth. Please answer the challengers. The countdown starts, 9, 8, 7. Yekong smiled, and quickly chose C, sighing, these thousands of passers before were afraid that they would all be sent to Death Valley in somehow to die. Congratulations, you answered correctly. The female voice in the computer seemed very happy, and then came the second question. Yekong even vomited blood. Even English is used, obviously. This is an investigation of whether it is a Chinese. It is estimated that the older brother who came first is afraid that his inheritance will be picked up by foreigners, so this problem was designed. But then again, if a buddy who does not understand English came across and would not answer, wouldn't he have missed it? Of course, those were not under Yekong's consideration. He quickly pressed A again. Congratulations, the answer is correct, said the computer prompt again happily. The third question is the last question. The passer, you are the first person who can answer here so far. Yekong almost smashed his head on the table. This Kangnan continent is too stupid, right? Such a question, you will be arbitrarily, there will always be someone right? In fact, Yekong thought it simple, thinking of those in the Kangnan continent, who had never seen a computer. Did NT know the text on the computer? Did NT even understand the meaning of the title, and even how to answer the question? How are they covered? Therefore, most of the previous challengers were inexplicable, shouting, "Where is the problem, where is it?" I didn't see the problem. Then he was teleported to Death Valley and killed, and he did NT know how to die? Of. The third question is simpler. There are only two alternative answers. The question is, "Hi, fellow, welcome to the Kangnan continent." The last question is, "Do you want to inherit my career?" A. Think. B. Don't want to. At this time, the female computer voice reminded, "Passengers, if you answer A, you will inherit the master's career and treasure. If you answer B, you will be immediately transmitted out of the field without any damage." Yekong was depressed. "I didn't know what your cause was and let me inherit it?" It really fainted. If I could save all the MM's cause in the Kangnan continent, then I could barely accept it. If I dedicated my life to the Kangnan continent, this kind of business, find someone else. Although he said so, he was still very interested in the two words behind the treasure. What's more, he didn't want to teleport, he had to find old Shishi to revive Deu. How could it be gone? I choose A. I hope it is a lot of wealth, a beautiful woman like a cloud. Yekong didn't hesitate and pressed A. When Yekong decisively chose A rush of music immediately sounded in the round room, as if celebrating victory for him. Later, I saw the small door of the space-like compartment at the back of the room opened, and walked out a tall old man. The old man looked exactly like the third one in the row of sculptures that Yekong saw before. This is the old man who has only heard his voice. The old man laughed when he came out. "Young man, you are welcome to inherit our cause. This is a great cause. This is a cause of justice. The cause of human dedication." Yekong Quan fell on the small round table. "What are you afraid of? For a long time, I still dedicated myself to the Kangnan continent. Please, Laozi is a hooligan, not so noble." "What's your expression?" She old man, who was about to continue poetry, noticed Yekong's expression. No, I am willing to give my life to the female compatriots in the Kangnan continent." Yekong smiled, he said, and immediately took the treasure and quickly flashed. "Female compatriots? And male compatriots?" The old man she apparently did not understand Yekong. Yekong didn't explain to him, and quickly asked, "Boss, what is your so-called career?" "Xiao, I can't do big things, and I don't want to do small things. If I throw my head, bleed blood, or something, my old man will please be smart." The old man shook his head and said, "Our business, I can't tell you yet, it's no use telling you." Yekong was depressed. "You guys are kidnapped, let me inherit my career, and then don't tell me what my career is. What exactly am I inheriting?" The old man laughed, "You don't have to worry about this. The so-called career, in fact, has the same purpose as your spiritual practice. It is nothing more than to make you rise higher and higher, and finally reach a decisive position. Kang, get a right to speak for humanity." Oh, Yekong seemed to understand. Since it was his career to be promoted, there was nothing to worry about. "Brother, are you from the earth?" Yekong asked again.